webinar. So welcome everyone to the first of a series of webinars we're running for Give It Up for Gut Cancer participants. Thank you so much for joining us and for signing up to Give It Up. My name's Sue. I look after community engagement and fundraising for the Gut Cancer Foundation, and we'll shortly be joined by Sean Robertson, who is a metabolic nutritionist from 4 Wheels of Health. Now, just a little bit of housekeeping once we get started. There is a chat function and also Q&A, so do jump in there, introduce yourselves in the chat, and any questions for myself or Sean, pop them in the Q&A box, and I'll keep an eye on that as we go through and hopefully answer some of your questions on the way. So this webinar is being recorded, so we will share the recording with you hopefully tomorrow via email. It'll also be posted into our private Facebook group that we've got going, where Sean's in the group and we'll be supporting everybody throughout the month with lots of tips and guidance. So huge thanks to Sean for his involvement. So now just before I hand over to Sean, I just want to take you through just a couple of slides, just with a little bit of background on gut cancers, a few statistics, and how we came up with Give It Up. So a little bit about gut cancers. What do we mean by gut cancers? They're the cancers of the digestive system, including from the top, the esophagus, right through the stomach, liver, gallbladder, pancreas, and ending up at the bowel. Collectively, they are the most common cancers in New Zealand, with about 25% of all cancer diagnoses being a gut cancer. And it affects over 5,700 New Zealanders every year, which is around 15 every day. Now, sadly, for this group of cancers, the survival rates are very poor. If you're diagnosed with one of these cancers, you'll only have about a 50-50 chance of surviving 5 years. If you develop one of the cancers of the upper gut, so your esophagus, pancreas, liver, and stomach, the survival rates are much lower, with pancreatic cancer being the lowest at only 12%. But it has been estimated, as a recent report come out of the Cancer Control Agency, and it's been estimated that up to 50% of gut cancers are preventable through lifestyle choices. Now, the Gut Cancer Foundation has 2 key missions. One is providing funding for research into new treatments, new diagnostic tests for these gut cancers. The earlier they're diagnosed, the better the outcome. So we're funding research into that, and also looking at raising awareness and starting conversations about these cancers that aren't often talked about. And just to give you an insight as well into why we need to talk about them, you know, of every 9 people that are diagnosed with breast cancer, 8 will survive. But for every 9 people diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, only 1 will live. So we need to be the voice for these cancers, for the likes of breast and prostate cancer that have high survival rates. There are a lot of survivors who are out there advocating, pushing awareness. So we need to be the voice for these cancers. So why Give It Up? As I mentioned, you know, up to 50% of these cancers can be prevented with lifestyle choices. So we developed the Give It Up program, which is now in its 2nd year. And there's 3 key outcomes from the campaign for you having signed up. You're taking a step to a healthier life by giving up one of these things. I know some people are giving up all 3, which is fantastic, but we want to see it as a stepping stone to a healthier lifestyle. Just by simply signing up and sharing your journey with your friends and family, sharing your fundraising page on social media, you're helping to raise awareness and you're starting conversations. So I'd encourage you to share your journey as you go through your Give It Up month, and just share your experiences, share the statistics around gut cancers and help raise awareness in the community. And thirdly, you'll be raising funds through the process, and hopefully you'll get lots of support from your friends and family. And those funds will go towards helping researchers to find better ways to detect and diagnose and treat these gut cancers. So thank you once again for your support of the campaign. Just, if you're struggling through your month, do remember those 3 key things that you're helping with, and that'll hopefully keep you on track. I will hand over to Sean shortly, but I just want to say at the end of this presentation, I will take you through, if you're new to fundraising, I'll take you through, just share my screen of my own fundraising page. I'm giving up sugar for the month, and give you some key tips of how you can go about online fundraising. 2 tips in particular I'll share with you, I did last night and doubled my fundraising overnight. So stay tuned to the end of the session, and I'll share some of those tips with you. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Sean Robertson, who's a metabolic nutritionist from 4 Wheels of Health. And Sean supported the campaign last year and is involved again this year. So a huge thank you to Sean for sharing his expertise with us. He's going to take us through some simple tips to get prepared for the week ahead. And just to let you know, we have got a schedule of these sessions on Thursday evenings, covering off a number of topics throughout the month. So keep an eye on your emails. We've emailed out the schedule of all those talks, and each one will be going into different areas in more depth. So thank you once again for joining us, and I will hand over to Sean.
Great. Just making sure you can hear me loud and clear, Sue. Awesome. Right, so I'll keep it short and sweet for you guys. The Give It Up challenge is, you're giving up a few things that for most of us are part of daily life. So it's not always, just a walk in the park, and getting off to a good start while we are off with a hiss and a roar is really, really important. So I'm going to cover 5 different points that you should really focus on that I think will benefit you greatly for making this entire challenge far easier for yourself. So the first one, and some of these may seem straightforward, but they can't be underestimated or understated, and the effect that they have is quite profound. So the first one is temptation. It's very hard to give something up when you are constantly exposing yourself to the temptation of it. So sugars and alcohol, if you're giving up either of those, if you've always got sugars in the house, sometimes, sugar cravings, they are a real thing. Or you may have just had a really long day, and if you're the kind of person that just wants to relax at the end of the day with a beer or a cider or a glass of wine, if it's there, then you're going to be far more inclined to reach for it, right? So simply by taking it out of your house, and you don't have to throw everything out. You can just put it all in a box and give it to someone that you know, and just say, hey, hold on to this while I complete this challenge. Just taking it out just removes completely the possibility that you will fall off the wagon or give in to temptation. If it's not there, you can't give into it. And it's quite interesting because it actually falls under the umbrella of willpower, which is actually a measurable resource in the brain. So it's not a chemical, it's not something we can look at, but in psychology studies, we can measure it, and you actually do deplete it throughout the day. So especially towards the end of the day, when your willpower has been depleted, I like to think of it as you have a certain amount of willpower coins to spend each day. And if you're out of coins, that's when you will make decisions that you know aren't in your best interest. And this is why we don't always do the things that we know are best for us, is because we literally run out of this willpower and we can't make the decisions that we know we should make just in the moment. And then, you kick yourself the next day for it. when you've had a sleep and woken up and you're clear thinking again. So remove temptation. Very, very important. Deceptively easy to do, and it just sets you up for success. The second one is on sugars. So yes, giving up candy is great, giving up milk chocolate, any fizzy drinks, those kinds of sugars are very obvious. Because the challenge isn't just about giving up things that aren't good for us, that things that we enjoy. It's about improving our health. So there are a lot of sugars that are hidden in foods, right? Like you can't buy the average tomato sauce these days without it being filled with about as much sugar as that you would find in a fizzy drink, per milliliter. So the way to look out for this, and you may want to write this down. I think it's a really good idea to have this written down. You'll know like the back of your hand in a day or two, but just to familiarize yourself with it. When you look at a nutrition label, and I'm going to try and make this as clear as possible, there is a column for per serving, and there is a column for per 100 grams. All I want you to do is look on the nutrition label, look in the per 100 gram serving, and then look at sugars. If that sugar content in that column says 15 or less, so we'll say 15 grams or less, then you know it's going to be 15% because it's per 100 grams. It's going to be 15% or less sugar. If it's 10 grams or less, it's 10% or less. 5 grams or less, it's 5% or less. So I will put it into 3 categories. If it says 15 grams or less per 100 gram serving, it's good. All right, that's a good start. That's the kind of food you want to be aiming for, to get rid of these hidden sugars that we speak of. If it's 10 grams or less, then that's great. That's setting yourself up for success and removing a lot of those hidden sugars that we get in our foods. If it's 5 grams or less, then that's awesome. That's the best I can ask you for. That is really getting rid of any extra sugar that you might find in your food that you don't know is there. Some really common things to look out for, like yogurts is a very easy one to compare. You can just compare brands, see which one has the least sugar. There's plenty of yogurts that are 3 grams of sugar or less. Any canned food, sauces like condiments, you can look at that. Now, obviously, the natural foods don't come with a nutrition label printed on them, but if you put into Google, if you want to be really pedantic and a perfectionist about it, which I highly encourage, then you can put the food name, nutritional info, into Google just on your phone while you're out shopping, and it will come up with a nutrition panel first thing. So you can put banana nutritional info, broccoli nutritional info, and it will come up right there. So even things without a nutrition label printed on them, you can find on the internet, all the natural foods. So that's the second thing, is to avoid hidden sugars, follow that formula, and you'll be really, really well on track. The next thing is probiotics. This helps a lot with your energy levels. It helps a lot with your mental focus. Again, like any desire for sugars or alcohol, because probiotics are introducing good bacteria into the body. And what this does is it helps to push out the bad bacteria, because they're competing for real estate, essentially, inside of you. It helps to push them out, and those good bacteria will actually help you to crave healthier foods, because that's what they crave. And a lot of your cravings actually come from what your bacteria want. And because the bad bacteria will be getting pushed out and their populations decreasing due to the competition with the good ones from the probiotics, the cravings for sugars and the like go down. And the amount of alcohol that is actually being produced by bad bacteria will also go down. So probiotics, if you haven't had any recently, or especially if you've been on antibiotics of any kind in the last year, highly recommend to get onto a supplement for that. So Lifestream do a really good probiotic called Metabolize, very affordable as well, and it is a top quality probiotic. Solgar do some really good ones, and if you can get your hands on them, the best ones that I'm aware of are called Megaspore Probiotic. They're by Microbiome Labs. So those are some really powerful probiotics for you to get your hands on, and especially if you have even just gut issues in general, like poor digestion, you know, if we're talking about bowel movements, things that's not ideal, it could be really handy for that as well. It's all about your gut health, and it does have an overflow effect into your desire for alcohol and sugar. So again, setting yourself up for success. In terms of finding replacements, a lot of the time, what makes it hard is the mental, giving these things up, the mental part of the habit. It could be boredom eating, it could be emotional eating, or just the habit of it. For example, you have alcohol, the habit of doing this with a beverage in the afternoon. That's very powerful. And so getting a replacement for these drinks is really good. Find something that you like that's low sugar, it's not alcoholic, have that instead. At least that will help with the mental side of that habit. Or snacking in the afternoon, I don't know, maybe you're watching Netflix or a movie or something after work. Again, finding a snack just to help with this habit, hand to mouth, that is again low sugar and not going to throw you out. Very handy. A lot of it is just replacing the physical habit of doing these things or having these things. So it is not to target the chemical or biological side of it, but just the physical habit of doing it does help a lot, because that's where a lot of the time we come unstuck, is just the habit breaking. So this way we're not having to break two different habits at once. We're just replacing one of them, so it makes it a lot easier. The last thing is, well, it's kind of two pieces, and this is to write it all down and have support. So creating a routine for yourself on paper and just putting it on the fridge or putting it in your room, just having it stuck to your wall or somewhere where you're going to always look at it. It's very handy as a reminder, because it constantly reframes everything for you, reminds you what you're doing, what you need to be doing to stay on track. Write down what you want to achieve and write down why you want to achieve it, if you like to have that bit of internal motivation in front of you, because sometimes it's very easy to forget, especially, you know, 2 weeks in, halfway through. Once all that initial steam has run off, it's actually the habits that keep us going forward. So writing it down, write down what you want to do every day around this challenge and how you're going to achieve it, things that you find work for you. Just having it in front of you, it does serve a purpose. And in regards to support, it's a lot easier to do something when you're doing it with a partner or a group. So if you're going into this, you know, just on your own initiative, that's awesome, good on you. It'd be really good if you can drag someone else or a few other people in with you, because we just know as humans, you know, we're cooperative beings. So doing it with someone else or with other people, mentally it feels like, you know, a problem shared is a problem halved kind of thing. You are far more motivated. You can, you know, banter with each other or keep each other accountable. It's a funny thing with human behavior is we're far more likely to do something if it is of benefit to someone else. We're very good at taking care of others and not so much ourselves. So doing it in a group will just be like a proxy for motivation, essentially. So get other people on board with you, even if it's just your partner or one other person in your household. In your household is the most important, because especially if you're removing temptation, then you're all doing it together. And it can be like, a fun little challenge to do together, and have some team or family or partner bonding going on. It can be quite a fun little thing to do together. So those are the tips that I would most recommend to start off with. There will be more in-depth information around the different aspects of giving it up, more in regards to like the sciencey side of cravings and how to deal with them, what things you can do to actually improve your health, more practical applications for anything that gravitates around these topics. So they'll be coming in future videos. If you're a little bit nerdy like me and like to get into the information around more so the actual biological health side of things. So that's it from me today. If you want to just rewatch, it'll be in this video will be in the group, and maybe make a few notes here and there, especially around the nutrition label. It's very, very handy to have. I can't recommend that enough. Okay, so Sue, I'll hand it back over to you. You had a few things you want to say to wrap up?
Yeah, I will just say a few words about the upcoming sessions. So as Sean has alluded, they're coming up on Thursday evenings. They will be live webinars like this, but we'll then be sharing the videos afterwards. A number of topics. The first one next Thursday evening is on cravings. That'll be a couple of days into your Give It Up month. So yeah, great timing to go over some of the detail of that and why you get cravings for sugar and alcohol. So Sean will be joining us again next week. Now, one question I had, Sean, around replacements. I'm going sugar-free for the month. What would you recommend as a replacement for sugar?
Well, I'll start off with saying that I'm a much bigger fan of, if we're talking about just number one, like a sweet tooth, I'm a much bigger fan of going down the path of getting rid of sugar cravings rather than trying to replace sweetness. So that would be the primary route that I would go, and that really is through fixing up your gut health. Once your gut health is in really good shape, sugar cravings just don't exist anymore. And that is I think the healthier route to go down. So a bit of reframing and retweaking your thinkings, going from replacing sugar to removing sweetness, or having it as a far more treat kind of thing. If you're not a fan of that route, and that doesn't sound like you, then the better thing to do would be to either use stevia, which is a sweetener that doesn't have any drawbacks. Really, there's a couple of things that you could consider drawbacks, but you need to have an absurd amount of stevia to have any kind of negative effect. And considering how sweet it is, it's just not possible. Other sweeteners I would try to steer clear of, but all I would say is that if you are going to have sweeteners, anything with a sweetener to try and replace the sweetness you get from sugar, try to have them around meals, because sweeteners will spike your insulin. And if you don't have anything else in your system when your insulin goes up, then your blood sugar can drop quite low, and you can actually feel quite tired and even have headaches, and sometimes even feel a little bit sick. So if you are going to have anything with sweeteners instead of sugar, then try to have it with or within half an hour of another meal. That's what I would say.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks so much, Sean. Again, keep an eye out for the link to the Facebook group that was in your welcome email. Also, check out the website. The Give It Up website has got a how-to section. Great additional tips on there, so check those out for booze-free, sugar-free and sofa-free. There are some great little short video workout clips if you haven't found them already under the how-to section. Fitness coach Aviv Jones has done a little introduction to exercise if you're new to exercise. So have a little look at that ahead of your giving up the sofa month. And yeah, she's got a cardio workout, a 5-minute cardio workout on there. Resistance training and a flexibility training video. So that's all under the how-to section on the Give It Up website. So now what I want to do, if this technology works, is share my screen and just give you a few tips and insights for the fundraising side of things. If you're new to online fundraising, it's a great way to having a fundraising page to share with your friends and family and let them know what you're doing for the month, and hopefully get some support from them. So I'll just share my screen now and hopefully get the right screen up. Here we go. Rightio. Here is my dashboard. Now I'm just going to move my screen across here so that I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so when you sign up to Give It Up, you'll get a profile. And when you log into your profile, if you hover over this right-hand side here, there's my name, there's Sue, and my profile picture. You've got a couple of things that you can go into here. So I'm currently in my dashboard. Now, this is just what you will see. Your friends and family, when you share it, won't see this. What they see when you share your page is your profile, which looks a little bit like this. Now within here you can set a goal. You've got a default little story on here about why I'm doing it, so you can go in there and edit that. You might, if you want to look at my page later, I'm doing it for my mum in the UK who's recently been through rectal cancer. So yeah, and as you can see, my mum has been my top donor. So yeah, that's your profile page, but I'll take you back to the dashboard here. So this is where you can go in and make some changes. So here on this right-hand side here, you can see my profile and my team. So I've set up a team as well, and you can flick between the two. So if you want to go and make some changes to your page, you can go in here, click edit your fundraising page. And, you know, there's a number of things that you can change. You can put a different photo up, change the default story. If you've had lots of donations, want to up your fundraising goal, you can put that in there. Change the picture that you share your page with. And I'll just click. And then, of course, remember to save when you've done the changes. There we go. All right. So just going back into my dashboard again. So that's editing your fundraising page. You can then share your page to get donations. So clicking that button will take you to Facebook. You can share via email. And this one's quite useful. You can just copy the link to your page from that button. I won't actually go through that process with you, but you can have a play around with that. That copying the link there is an important one. One of the tips I'd give you, sharing it on Facebook is great for getting the message out there about what you're doing. Often people will like your page and not necessarily go through and donate. So sharing via email or even copying the link into Messenger or WhatsApp, sending it out as a more personal approach does get a better response. But what Facebook is pretty good at is this tip that I tried last night. So before last night, you can see here that I'm currently sitting on $481. So I'd shared my page once on social media and a few people had donated to me. I then last night went onto social media and did a post and tagged all the people that had donated to me and thanked them for their donation. And bingo, a whole flood more donations came in from people that thought, oh, my name's not on that list and I should be. So that combined with, I shared the link via this button here into Messenger, and I've got a little Messenger group set up with my family in the UK, and overnight they jumped on and donated. They've obviously seen it on Facebook as well, hadn't donated, but sharing it into the group. And once one had done it and I thanked them, the rest of them did as well. So just a couple of tips for you to try there if you're finding you're not getting many donations coming through. This little section here on my achievements, you can see we've got little badges here. And this is just a little bit of fun for keeping you motivated, keeping you going with your fundraising to see which level you can get to. But I just wanted to highlight really what the funds are going towards and to put some context around that. So predominantly we are funding research, and in particular clinical trials. Now, clinical trials are a really important part of research. It takes findings in the lab and brings them into real life situations with patients. It's an essential process for getting sort of a new drug discovery through to becoming a standard of care. Now, you may well be aware that in New Zealand, there are a lot of issues with funding new drugs through PharmAC. Again, that's another side that Gut Cancer Foundation is working on, advocating for funding of some of these new drugs. But through the clinical trial process, we're giving access to New Zealanders, access to some of these drugs up to 5 years earlier and without payment through these clinical trials. So it's a really important aspect, both for research, but also for patients who might have exhausted all other treatment options. So as an example, funds from the Give It Up campaign last year have funded 2 clinical trials, and up to 20 patients have got access to a drug that they wouldn't otherwise have, and which is going to extend their life and provide a better outcome. So what you're fundraising for is real. I'll come back to this $1,000 mark here because that's the minimum cost for getting one person onto a clinical trial. They do vary depending on the trials, from $1,000, anything from $1,000 up to $10,000. But for us, if you can achieve $1,000, you're a champion because you're potentially improving the outcome of a fellow New Zealander. So huge thanks again for your support of the campaign. If Sean's on hand as your nutritional coach, I'm on hand as your fundraising coach. If you want to drop me a line and organise a call with me to talk through some of this stuff, if you're technically challenged and need my help, do just reach out. I'm here to support you. Yeah, and that's about it. I don't know if we've got any questions in the group. No questions at the moment, so I'll stop sharing the screen and just say, look, best of luck to everyone. Our goal is to raise $200,000 from the campaign, and you know, if everyone can do their bit to add into that, some are going to raise more, some less, and we know it's challenging out there for a lot of people at the moment with COVID, but do your best and you know, spread the word, and yeah, looking forward to the month ahead. So we'll join you again next Thursday evening, but in the meantime, post any questions you have on the group or contact us via email. So many thanks for joining us this evening, and as I say, best of luck and catch you next Thursday.
Thanks very much, team.